Good morning. I'm here on my morning walk, so please excuse me if I might have a bit of a breath. But yeah, I am doing a little bit of physical activity to clear my headspace a bit. So I don't even know exactly where I'm going to go with this, but I just wanted to share that yesterday I saw this doctor. She's in her 70s and she's a nutritionalist, so a food expert, and she's given me this diet to follow, which is going pretty well, but she expands a lot further than food and stuff, and she really deep dives into the spirit, and I'm not even sure how, but she calculated all these things about me to give me like an understanding of where what my soul is, the main characteristics of my soul. And that was a beautiful thing, and she told me so many things about life and, and my brain and how it all functions, or it should function, and I don't know, just one of those, really brilliant people who is able to connect a lot of subjects. She connects the sciences, the physics, with a lot of spiritual information, and I've always been very fascinated by this kind of knowledge. There's even a book by Bruce Lipton, which it's not just his book, but he's co-author, and it has to do with science and spirituality, and I did love reading that book. It's very scientific, but it shows you how basically the longest periods of harmony in humanity are achieved when these two walk hand in hand instead of as opposing forces. So anyway, the problem was that because sometimes, I just trust the fact that these people have come into my life for a reason, and I trusted to give her the information that, that my divine masculine had passed, and the kind of relationship that we have since his passing. And she said certain things that really knocked me off my binaries. I'm not sure how to say this, off my pedestal. She was like, his spirit is obviously on his way back to the light, and he's probably not even there yet because of the way he passed, with there being alcohol and possibly that he wasted his life. He's going to be going through at least like a purgatory level, and so whoever you think you're interacting with is not him. It could be a spirit guide of his. And that really knocked me off. And she was like, don't take my word for it, just study your own materials. But I've been studying this stuff for 20 years, and she specifically specialized in ayahuasca medicine and treatments and shamanic procedures. I don't know. And I thought to myself, geez, like, we all have this tendency, I think, to really take on board whatever these so-called experts have for us, and putting that even before our own feelings and knowledge. And so, you know, she did tell me that my main objective of my soul is to find independence. And independence is basically just knowing who you are, to the point that what other people say or do or how they interact with you does not affect you, because it is you just know who you are. You just know who you are to a point that it just, whatever others say completely does not affect you. And so I'm obviously not there. I'm just working towards that. I know. But I was just like, because, you know, there's this thing I don't think I've shared on my channel up to this point, but now seems like a good time to do so. And basically, ever since I was at uni at the age of 23, I had my first episode, which led me to hospital. The doctors didn't know what it was, and somehow, without a clear diagnosis, I left a week later and just assumed that it was some kind of breakdown, and maybe because of my uni studies and the stress and stuff. And so I went back to London, where I was taking my master's degree, and basically entered the worst fucking depression I ever had in my whole life. And then that passed too, luckily, and I kind of went back to normal. I was able to, you know, hand in my dissertation and my master's a few months, well, about 6 months later than my peers. But it was fine. Like, I felt fine. Like, the summer approached and I got an interview and a job for one of the main accounting international firms in Milan, and I was over the moon, and I was celebrating and drinking and doing all the wrong stuff. Of course, little did I know that I was going to pay that very dearly. In fact, as soon as I started my job, things just went completely south, and I started not sleeping again, and that was creating all sorts of psychotic interpretations of reality. And so I basically had to leave my job, and my dad was very adamant at that point to understand what the hell was going on with me. And so he took me to Rome to see this psychiatrist who diagnosed me as bipolar, bipolar type 1, which means you can have the highs of mania and the lows of depression. So that was like, talking about independence, man, that just blew me off completely. Like, I don't know, I just felt the earth kind of wanting to swell me up from underneath, and I didn't understand who I was. I didn't understand how this was gonna affect me in practical terms. And little did I know is that it would affect my life in a very meaningful way. And so I've always kind of had to be careful that something that I now perceive as my gifts, even my psychic gifts, or the ability to, I don't know, be in contact even with entities or with souls that have passed on the other side. And it's not just my ex, it's also like I've been able to channel letters from my grandparents and stuff like that. So, but I've always had to keep that very in check, because otherwise I would just be like, oh, okay, here's my craziness, this is me on psychosis. And I think now in retrospect that possibly most of the episodes I have were in reality spiritual awakenings, but I couldn't decipher them in that way, because I've always been a very logical, rational kind of person, and yeah, I couldn't possibly think that this was all because I was different and a spiritual person, and it was pushing, like, me trying to fit in and to please others and to do the right things and get the right job and marry the right person really made, like, my soul so restricted that it would come bubbling up in the weirdest of ways, almost like a pressure cooker. And so I tried to, just, oops, sorry for that. I just tried to basically live life the best that I could. But that obviously took away a lot from my independence, because I had to trust other people, including my husband, my own family members, to be that person who would even tell me, oh, you've been acting a little off, or are you sure you're okay? I mean, have you been sleeping enough hours, or are you... That has basically been my whole life. So it's hard to maintain that level of independence when you basically have an illness that makes you rely on others for survival. And it's better now, because luckily when I hit rock bottom a few years ago, I decided to make the switch towards taking lithium, which is something that I was dreading. I don't know, because I just thought it was going to be too much or slow me down too much. But that was never the case. It was actually a really good choice for me. But yeah, so this struggle of being independent, it makes more sense now than it did even then. So yeah, what she said I did really take it on board. But at the same time, I thought to myself, there's just a generational mismatch with people who are, to me, at another, like, in their 60s or 70s, or they just, like, the way, I'm not trying to discredit any of what she said. I'm sure it's absolutely valid, and that she's really done her homework and she knows her stuff. But all I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily resonate with me, because it kind of comes from still a very religious background of perceiving almost like Dante's book, no, the Divine Comedy, of how he perceives the soul to basically walk through hell, purgatory, and then finally end up in paradise. But to me, that is almost like a metaphor for the living of the kind of drama we go through to elevate ourselves, and to finally seeing that we are the peace holders, that it is achievable and all within us. Not so much to be taken literally for the spirit world. And even before my ex's passings, I've been watching, people who are even famously become like celebrity mediums, especially Americans, and they give a completely different understanding of what heaven is and what the spirit world is, and I don't feel at all like that my person is in purgatory, or that souls, sorry about that souls only aim to go back into a light and to be kind of merged with source energy, and no longer feel that that part of their existence where they were humans. And I'm not just talking about life reviews and all of that. I just mean their actual identity. Because what I've been also seeing in my visions is I was seeing us as being young, as being like having a body, but a very light body, not as dense as we are in the 3D. And we just look like really healthy, really almost like transparent. So, and he too had his body. It's not like, because he departed from this world, and because I've been hearing that too, and we're here to ascend in our bodies and whatever, so that, I'd be in the spirit world or in higher dimensions with my body, whereas he would just be in an energetic form. No, I don't feel like that's the case at all. And so basically I'm just telling myself that it's time to stop giving my power away and taking on board what other people think that is. It's, at the end of the day, it's their own view of reality. Which doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just not mine. And we're all entitled to have our own view. Because there is no such thing as a universal truth. It is just our truth. And we just have to basically, have faith in our own vision of things, in our own understanding of things. Because it was also very negative for me. I left her doctor's office feeling really shit, and that kind of affected my whole evening. I went to tennis practice and I was playing like shit. And then when I got home, it finally kicked in that in that case, she became an energy vampire to me simply because she was instilling these beliefs and ideas and thoughts that were not aligned to mine and had therefore drained my energy, and I was under psychic attack, so I had to clear myself. And it's hard to basically, it's not just as easy as, oh, okay, I've been attacked, so let me clear myself and then it's all good. No, I feel like you kind of pay for that for a while until your energy rises again. In fact, I was frantically trying to get off answers from my ex on the other side, and of course nothing was coming through because I wasn't in a state of receiving. So yeah, I mean, guys, life is hard, especially if you're going through an awakening, if you're trying to make your mind up about yourself and the world around you and the events that happen to you, let alone trying to make it all work as a perfect puzzle with what others believe too, when we give our power away, right? Because of course, like, if the person means nothing to you, then you're just gonna set your boundaries automatically and not even gonna give credit to whatever they have to say. But in this case, because she did like this soul analysis that was really spot on, I kind of trusted to give her that information, only to really not have that work in my favor. So yeah, point taken. I really ought to set boundaries, but not, I just saw 2222 on the recorder. So that's a beautiful angel number that I'll check later. Yeah, I always thought that setting boundaries was simply an act of, oh, let me put up my protection, let me put up my shield. But no, it's more than that. It's also boundaries in terms of what I allow myself to take on board from others. That is mainly it. And of course, you know, if you've been told in the past that you're crazy, you're delusional, you're psychotic, it's harder to achieve that because there's always that little voice telling you, oh, but you're crazy, you know, you need others to explain stuff to you because you don't quite get it. Instead, I do get it, and I probably get it more than others, and that's why I have the problem in the first place. Not that I have, but that is perceived that way. I mean, just think about it. How many people nowadays suffer from mental illness? My ex did. He had depression and anxiety and obviously addiction. His son has autism. A bunch of my friends' kids also have autism or attention deficit disorder. So we're obviously moving into a different world with different parameters, and I think we need to embrace them, not fight them, not continue isolating them or disregarding them or thinking that it's less than because you perceive reality differently than the normal guy who would never obviously engage with receiving messages from spirit, angel numbers, and this and that. but I think we're just beautiful and magical as we are. And personally, I've been honored to meet a group of other bipolars in my, where I go for the center I go to for my medication and doctor's appointments, and they're wonderful. I mean, I had such an amazing time with these guys. We're such on the same level, and they're just so funny and so brilliant and so different from ordinary people that I thought, oh gosh, like, I just wanted these people as my friends all the time. And of course, I'm sure, like, at some point we might just get on each other's nerves or have breakdowns or whatever, but it's life anyway. Like, anyone can and does go through that. So okay, well, I think I've done enough talking on this semi-cloudy, pretty cloudy day. Winter. That's a weird slip of tongue. I was gonna say summer has been quite bizarre for us. Like, normally, June and July are months that it's just constantly sunny, blue skies, and very hot. And yeah, this year is very different. I wonder if things are changing, hopefully. Like the song, The Winds of Change. Okay, so I think I'll leave it here for now, and thank you all who have listened. And if you happen to be bipolar, or even if not, like, I'd be more than happy if you wanted to share your comments with me. And yeah, if not, have a great day. Sending you all my love, and talk soon.